So in 1970, after 1970, Australia changed a lot culturally. So the Opera House was opened, I think, in 1972. Okay? Before, when people think of Australia, they think of kangaroos and beaches.
Yeah.
This beach is 5 minutes from my house.
Wow.
I am lucky. This is the same beach. You see how natural it is?
Yeah.
It's not like Hawaii with lots of tall buildings. It's very natural. That is Australia. That is Australia's biggest benefit. Now, this is a picture in my state, but you find beaches like this all over Australia, especially in Queensland.
Wow.
Okay? This is Australia. Where I live, how many beaches do you think I can get to in 1 hour driving? In Sydney. How many beaches do you think there are in Sydney?
Maybe all over this.
How many? A number.
5.
5 beaches. How many beaches in Sydney? How many? 3. There are probably about 50 beaches in Sydney.
Wow.
Right? It's crazy. Now, so Australia is full of this sort of thing. Now, I'm going to speak to you about something else. I'm going to speak to you about the Australia after 1972. I'm going to speak to you about 5 topics. The first topic is why Australia is a leader in education. Okay? You didn't know that. Australia is a leader in education. I'm going to give you some data.
No, you should say.
I should say data. In England and Australia we say data. In America they say data. I can speak American English, but I am speaking Australian accent, so...
Because yesterday when we were holding lecture in Italian for Italian University of Foreign Languages, he said, data.
Everyone's doing data?
Oh,
Oh, data.
Data. That's why he changed today.
Yes. So we're going to speak about how Australia leads. Now, in this picture, you see something that I will now explain. This is from The Economist magazine. The Economist is a very important newspaper magazine in London, and it measured earlier this year leading countries for international students. Okay? So, in Australia, there are 348,000 international students. 25% of all the students in universities in Australia are international students, overseas students. 25%. In Britain, 15%. Canada, 10%. Sorry, Canada 5%. No, Canada 10%. United States 5%. But the magic number, 348,000 in Australia, 975,000 in the United States. Do you know what the population of America is? How many people in America?
2 billion.
Sorry?
2 billion.
2 billion?
I'm sorry, just I think.
You're not good at geography. America has 320 million people. 320 million people. Okay? China has 1.2 billion. Yes? Australia has 24 million. Oh So America is 10 times and more bigger. But Australia, 348,000 students from overseas. America, 975. Do you understand why this is important? Okay, Australia sells good education. So, education is Australia's 4th biggest export. Australia, number 1, sells metal, iron ore, aluminium, coal, anything they dig out from the ground. Number 1 in Australia. Okay? China buys it all. Okay? And then we buy it back as refrigerators, washing machines, cars. We give them dirt, they give us products. That's number 1. But number 4 is education. Australia has the world's most diverse community. There are people from many different cultures in Australia. Something like 50% of people in Australia were born overseas or their parents were born overseas. It's a migrant country, so it welcomes migrants. There are maybe 500,000 Chinese people in Australia. It's a very big population for Australia. For Shenyang, this is just over there, 500,000 people. Okay. Now, Australia has a free trade agreement with China, which means low tariffs. So the countries are close. This shows you the increasing number of foreign students who come to learn in Australia. So in 1994, see, it's going up. In 1994, there was 99,000 students. And it went up and up and up and up and up and up and up. 2015, we have almost 600,000. I talked about the Economist newspaper earlier, but that was 1 year ago. It's just going up. So this is showing the students. Now, higher education is the most blue. Higher education is the most blue. So from there to there is university students from overseas. From here to here, it is, I don't know what it is. It says EUCO, I don't know. Then underneath this is technical education, which is vocational. Plumbing, building, not brain, more body education. And then at the bottom is high school and primary school education. Okay? So the students are coming as little children, bigger children, university graduates, etc. Okay? So it's going up. I like America, but I also worry about America. This is the cost of education in university in America. In 1993, for average, do you understand average?
Yes.
Average American student in 1993 was paying $9,000 every year for 1 year university education. That's American dollars. Average 2014, 33,000. It's out of control. the universities are increasing the cost higher than inflation. You understand the word inflation? Yes. So it's higher than inflation. So this is not a good thing. Now, education is not cheap in Australia, but it's not as expensive as this. Now, I am telling you that Australian education is very high standard. Two other ways we can measure it is this. One, who wants to do a PhD? Anybody want to become a doctorate? You know what a PhD is? Yeah, okay. So, when we measure the number of people with PhDs in countries, right? We take 100,000 people and we say how many in that 100,000 have a PhD. When we do that, Switzerland is number 1 for PhDs. Then Finland. Number 3 is Germany. Number 4 is United Kingdom, Britain. Number 5 is Iceland. And this country, you didn't think Australia had that many PhDs. Australia is 6th highest in the world for the percentage of people with PhDs. This is very high. And Norway is 6th. There is no America in this list. It comes much later. So that's PhDs as a measure. Now, another way to measure brains is published scientific papers. Do you know what scientific papers are? You know what scientific papers are. Like a paper, university paper that is published in a journal. You know what they are? Yes? Okay. So, scientific papers published in journals. We are now going to see how many are published and which countries. Okay? Right. So, if we look at just Asia, we have China, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, India, Australia. Okay? Now, in 1 year, recent year, China published scientific papers 142,000. Australia published 38,000. So we have 142, and we have for Australia 38. What's the population of China? 1.2 billion. What's the population of Australia? 24 million. Australia publishes a lot in medicine. Medical education is extremely high in Australia, equal to most places. Okay, you can go to Harvard, you can go to some special universities where it will be higher. But if you look for average, most university education for medicine is very high. In law, education is very high. In teaching, education in Australia is very high. Software, it's not bad. Making cars, making wine, very high. So these are, I have given you some data. I've given you some data about why Australia is a leader in education. Now, I'm going to give you one more piece of data. It relates to what I do. I am a specialist in this type of law. Copyright? Do you know what copyright is? Yeah, copyright. So, copyright. Yeah, you know what that is? So you can't copy movies, you can't copy books, you can't copy software. You can't copy books. You can't copy education courses. Yes? I'm the lawyer for this. I'm the lawyer for brands. Brands. Right? Gucci, Mucci, Ferrari, brands. Okay? So, in Australia and in China, if you want to have a brand, you try to register it as a trademark. Right? Okay. So, when we measure where is Australia, these are 5 different pieces of survey data. Survey data. And we see, at the top, for example, this survey, United Kingdom was number 1, Germany number 2. In this one, United States was number 1, United Kingdom was number 2. They're measuring how many of these there are in each country. In this one, Japan number 1, Switzerland number 2. In this one, Switzerland number 1. Why Switzerland? What does Switzerland have? What intellectual property does Switzerland have? What does Switzerland have? I'm sorry? Doctors. Yes, you're warm. What does Switzerland have? Pharmaceuticals. That's a big word. I'll give you a little word. Drugs. Medicine. That's medicine. Right? It has medicine. For medicine, it has. How do you protect medicine? What law protects medicine? Copyright protects films, books, software, music. Trademarks protects brands. What protects medicine? Patent law. P-A-T-E-N-T. Patent law. Do you know this word, patent?
No.
Learn this word. Write this word down. This word is worth a lot of money. So Switzerland has a lot of patents in medicine. So that's Switzerland. Now, again, Switzerland on the 4th one, number 1, UK number 2, Japan number 1, Finland number 2. But look at Australia. It's a little country. But Australia is in number 13. Australia is number 17 in the world. Australia is number 20 in the world. Australia is number 7 in the world. Australia is number 5 in the world. It's a brand new country. You hear a lot about Australia, about sport, football, soccer, swimming, running. In Olympics, Australia does get very many gold points. In Olympics, Australia comes 5th or 6th in the world. Australians are crazy about sport. Okay? So they talk a lot about sport. They don't talk much about education. But they're very good, but they don't talk about it. I don't know why. I'm talking about it. Okay, so Australia has in the top 200 universities in the world. These universities are in the top 200 of the world. I got my law degree and my degree in humanities. I studied history. I got 2 degrees. I got my degrees at the University of New South Wales. Here it says 93 without Nobel Prizes and 101 with Nobel Prizes. So that was my university. But the law school I went to is much higher. This is measuring all faculties, teaching, medicine, etc. So Australia has some very high-ranked universities. So we began by talking about Australia, beaches, opera house, kangaroos. And then we said, no, Australia's education, it's a leader, PhDs. The cost is not as high as America. The lifestyle is much better. It's slower, it's more relaxed. I'm now going to tell you why the education system in Australia is different to China.
Yeah.
This graphic is very interesting. This is a graphic about how we learn. If you are just listening to me, all you are doing is understanding and remembering. I'm not giving you very much. If I gave you work to do, you would be creating. That's what they're doing in the school. They're helping in Australian schools children to create. Show church, newspapers, and things like that from a very young age. Now, Australia, which country do you think Australia really loves? China? Very good guess. Australia doesn't hate any country, but it loves China. So here we go. This photograph, I want you to guess what year that photograph was taken. What year was this photograph taken? This is the Prime Minister, the top politician, Prime Minister and his wife visiting China. Okay? I don't know who this guy is. I think he's quite famous. Deng Xiaoping! Okay! So, and this is a translator, yes? Probably. Right. Any of you could be translators. Okay. So, what year was this? Come on. What year? Guess. When did Deng Xiaoping die? Oh my God. I don't know when Deng Xiaoping died. Okay, so it's before then, so when?
I think Deng Xiaoping died in 1997.
Right, okay, 1997. When did President Nixon come to China? 1992. Thank you. This is 1970, not 1992. Did you say
70.
This photograph is 1973.
Oh.
So for 100 years, no leader of Australia came to China, but in 1973, I told you Australia changed in 1970. I told you that, yes?
Yeah.
So 1973, the Prime Minister, I think even before President Nixon, went to China. Now, I live in Sydney.
Yeah.
You're in Shenyang.
Yeah.
Is Sydney time behind Shenyang or ahead of Shenyang? Behind? Correct. So, here is Australia. There's Sydney. There's Shenyang. Right? So, Sydney is 2 hours ahead of Shenyang. 2 hours. But Perth, do you know Perth? It's a city in Western Australia.
Yeah.
Perth is the same time.
Oh.
So China is the same time as Australia. In the future and now, that's very important for business. Very important for business. I wake up, I send you an email, she answers. In America, I have to wait the next day. In London, I have to wait the next day. No, I have to wait till evening. If I want to talk to New York, I have to call 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, and that's it. Or if I want to talk to Germany from Sydney, I have to talk at 12 o'clock at night. If I want to talk to China, anytime. So the time zone is the same. China is Australia's #1 trading partner. We sell more to China than any other country. There's a large Chinese community in Australia, and there's the free trade agreement. Question. This is a survey that was done. You know what a survey is? Survey? asking people,
Survey.
survey,
Yeah, we call it survey. 调查。
Gota.
调查
Okay, so this is an Australian organisation which did a Gyota in 2014, 2 years ago. Now, it asked the question. It asked the question to Australians. The question, in your opinion, which of the following countries is Australia's best friend? Best friend. Best friend. 31% of Australians said China. Then Japan, then Singapore, Indonesia, 5% only for India, South Korea, and I don't know. Most people who are going to get a certificate are going to be on this path, the blue path. Okay? You're going to graduate. That's you. You're going to graduate. You're going to walk up this hill. You're going to get to 60, 70 years old. And you're going to work a little bit and then you're going to retire. That's what you think. In truth, that's not going to happen. In truth, you're going to change your job. You're going to change your job maybe 5 times. I don't know, maybe 3 times you will change your job. That's the reality. Yesterday I was speaking in Dalian University of Foreign Languages, Dalian University of Foreign Languages, and the room was full of people wanting to become translators. I specialize in software law. Okay, software law, the law for software, the law for IT, the law for the internet. I specialize in that. So I said to the students, in 5 or 10 years' time, maybe all these people translating English to Chinese or Japanese to Korean, they may not have work because the software translates better and better. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I think I will have less work as a lawyer in 2025. So I have 9 years to learn more about software because of artificial intelligence. Do you know about artificial intelligence? AI. Right? AI. Now, these 2 people, do you know who they are? Bill. Yeah, Bill Gates and
Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Okay. Did they get a university degree? Do they have university degrees?
No.
Do they like university degrees?
No. Yes.
Why did they stop going to university? Why did they stop? Because they saw a better idea. Because they realized the world is changing. This man, he walked into a laboratory. I've written articles on this. He walked into a laboratory which is called the Palo Alto Research Center. Palo Alto is in Silicon Valley. So he went to the Palo Alto Research Center in 1978. And in Palo Alto Research Center, they showed him a computer. The company that showed him the computer was Xerox. Have you heard of Xerox? Okay, huge company, photocopying. It really invented photocopying. He saw a computer in the Palo Alto Research Center which had mouse, which had icons, windows moving, and he said, this is the future. So he stopped going to university. So this man is very similar. He learnt in 1982. You see how these numbers are going?
Yeah.
I'm good at maths. In 1982, Bill Gates learned something very important. What did he learn? He learned that IBM wanted to make a small computer, PC. IBM wanted to make a PC, but it didn't have software. So he sold to IBM, licensed. You know the difference between sold and licensed? Can you
No.
explain that in Chinese? 许可证?
许可证
License. Right.
License.
Yeah, so he licensed to IBM the DOS software disk operating system. He licensed it to IBM. Okay? Because IBM was introducing a computer but didn't have software. Okay?
Yeah.
Do you know how much he paid? How much did he pay for the DOS software? Because he didn't make it. He found somebody who had it. And he bought it from that other boy. And he licensed it to IBM. How much? $50,000. That's all. $50,000. So he is today worth how much? I think he's worth about $68 billion. 50,000, 68 billion. Now, these two people did not finish university. They went on the green line. They were going to university and they decided to stop. And they went on this path, which means they're going backwards. But they saw an opportunity and they shifted and they went higher. I think you should get a university degree, but one of the problems with university is it makes you stupid.
Yeah.
University makes you very conservative. Bao shou. Very frightened.
害怕
It makes you frightened.
害怕
So just remember that. So how do you become not frightened, not conservative, not shy? You go and see the world. You travel. You experience. You get confidence. You learn to... you did it again? You learn to really confidently not be the way you have been brought up. So, in conclusion, this is the end. In conclusion, what I'm saying to you, in all of the things I have said, is 4 things. 1, learn from experience and experiment. Just like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they experimented. They took a risk. Risk. University teaches you to take no risk, but risk is good. Business people take risks. Technology developers take risks. So you have to take risks. You have to grab opportunity. Number 2, learn what computers cannot do. Because if you learn what a computer can do, translate, in 10 years' time, maybe you have no job. So learn what computers cannot do. Because, look, I have two friends who are programmers making artificial intelligence. It's incredible what they do. I can explain later, but time is limited. Number 3, mix book and practical learning. Right? You're getting book learning. Come to Australia, get some practical learning. Maybe, teach for 2 weeks. See how these people think, behave, make new friends, mix it up. And don't just learn about one thing. Like, mix areas of learning. Don't just learn about medicine, also learn about tourism, also learn about physics, also learn about teaching, also learn... Because the greatest inventions, I'm an intellectual property lawyer, copyright, patents, the greatest inventions that I see now don't come from one area. In medicine, the greatest inventions are combining biology and information technology. Computers in the head to help people. Biology and IT. In university, do they have a department of biology and IT combined? Universities all over the world are designed for yesterday. Okay? That's my view. So mix your areas of learning. Learn different areas because the knowledge is coming from many different areas. Questions?